I'm Gina Bell, and I'm a storyteller. This is Jars of Arioch, Part 2, Chapter 2, Angels Love Cotton Candy. We woke up at 10 a.m. and I got ready for our day. Benoit would be arriving tonight, and she was planning on staying at my place. I had ordered some nice wine and cheeses to be delivered around the same time of her arrival. It was like having a sleepover. I had never had one as a child, but I heard good things from other kids. I would have never thought about going anywhere without Travis, and most of the parents couldn't stand him. They thought he was creepy. Even as a kid, he was creepy. When I went into the kitchen to make breakfast, a bag of cash was sitting on the counter. I counted out $3,000, all in hundreds. I often wonder where it comes from, but like everything with Arioch, it was mysterious. I put the cash into my purse. This would pay for a sexy dress for pretty Tracy. Nothing makes Hope happier than a bye-bye. I put the address for the yellow house with the picket fence into the Uber app, and we were off. As we rounded the corner to the house, I could see people outside. The house looked just as it had looked in my vision. A woman was out front putting up decorations. A woman in a white dress with an infant over her shoulder and a toddler at her feet. The banner she was attempting to display said, "Happy First Birthday, Melody James." It waved calmly in a gentle breeze. The moment I saw it, I gasped. A feeling of peace and joy filled my body. I got chills and all the hair stood up. I was filled with pride and relief. We had saved them by hours. Cars were arriving and folks were getting out yelling, "Happy birthday!" It seemed that we had saved all these nice people heartaches that would have lasted for generations. I asked the Uber driver to slow down for me as we passed the house. I looked at the woman with the infant in her arms. She smiled at me as we drove by. I then began crying out all the emotions I had bottled up. This has been a new experience for me. To be up and close with the ones we saved was extremely rare. This moment of complete rapture I was feeling was completely new to me. In that moment, everything had been worth it, even the loss of my brother. Before I drove past this little yellow house, I still had moments filled with regret. If only I had stayed in Los Angeles. If only I could have stopped Travis from molesting that little boy. If only haunted me day and night until just now. If I were to be hit by a bus or swallowed whole by a demon, my entire life would have had extreme purpose, because we, me and Hope, damned a little short thug before he could commit his worst action. I felt free and light. While kneeling to a demon, Hope and I had become angels. Time to fucking celebrate. Now I need to find a store that not only has a pretty dress for pretty Tracy, but also someone with a body like hers. I have no idea what size perfect is. We walked down Madison Avenue and window shopped for almost an hour before I saw her. She was lovely and tall with an athletic build. She flowed through the aisles shopping. Beautiful women carry themselves differently than the rest of the world. I can tell you this is a fact given to me by the recent wisdom bestowed upon me by Arioch. This one was born with her beautiful skin. Her parents' genetic code mixture was a damn good one. Lucky her. I felt drawn to her, I needed to be near her. It was like a magnet, and as I walked, my body began yet another transformation. The tips of my fingers became hot. I felt my upper body begin to straighten and grow. It didn't hurt, but rather it filled me with adrenaline and testosterone. I glanced into one of the many mirrors facing us, and I was a 50-something-year-old man. I had salt and pepper hair, wide shoulders, sky blue eyes, a chiseled jaw, and I was roughly 6'5" or so. The feeling of arrogance and power was wonderful. Women's heads turned all around me, and then to Hope. Not only was I a ridiculously hot dude, but I had a dog. Handsome Tracy was also wearing the Giorgio Armani version of my hunting clothes. I put on my black COVID mask and walked in with Hope. Women came from everywhere to love on my dog and get a better look at me. They all batted their grotesquely long fake eyelashes at me. But my attention was on the natural beauty just in front of me. No need for fake anything with her. She was perfect. She looked in my direction and smiled a slow, seductive smile. The room became quiet, and that tunnel vision began. I ignored the other women and walked to her. Our eyes locked as I got closer and closer. "Well, hello there," she said to me softly as we approached her. As I stared into her eyes, I could feel the ruthless predator she is. It filled me with animalistic feelings. I was perfect for her. Though she is seemingly quickly becoming my prey, I am also feeling the man I am inside awaken. "Might you do me a favor?" My voice was deep. I sounded like one of those guys on the radio. "Anything," she responded. "My sister is having an event coming up, and I needed to find a dress that will suit her. You have a similar frame. Might you help me?" "I would love to. Do you have a price range you'd like to stick to or anything?" "No." "A man after my own heart." Well, this was exactly what she wanted to hear. I followed her around the store and we searched for dresses. Her hair was a lovely blonde with light brown highlights. I had honed in on her so completely I could hear the soft whoosh of her hair as it brushed against her bubble-gum pink dress. "What's her name?" she asked while bending to pet Hope. "Her name is Hope," I answered. "Interesting. And what is it that you are hoping for right now?" In some ways, she seemed so delicate and lovely like a butterfly, but in actuality, probably more like a Venus flytrap. She thought she had caught me in her web. I could feel her, and she was attracted to me. Her cheeks were reddening. I followed closely behind her. She found a black dress with a long V in the back. It was mid-length, with a slit up to the thigh. She went into the dressing room. I waited for her to emerge, but then I heard her call to me. "Can you help me with the zipper?" The second I walked in, she grabbed me and pulled my body against hers. The black dress fell to the floor. She was completely naked and shaved like a brand new baby with the exception of the gold cross around her neck. Her skin was soft, and as our lips touched, my vision began. Hers was a world in pink. How fitting, I thought. I had never seen pink before. She was standing at an altar with a man decades her senior and taking vows. She kissed him, and as we backed away, the man became another man. I looked to the people in the audience that were smiling. When I looked back again at my new groom, he was another man yet again. We, my prey and I, looked down at our huge ring, and there it was, silver sparks shining off the ring. She is a pink silver. There is a flavor to her particular breed. There is always a flavor. Well, this is my term for it. The moment I had the thought, my mouth filled with her actual flavor. This was a new sensation for me, an actual flavor. I had referred to it as a flavor before it actually was one. She tasted lovely. Her very essence had a taste. It was in her hair and on her skin. She tasted like cotton candy. Her saliva and skin tasted like the puffy stuff me and Travis always got when Grandma took us to the fair in Pomona. The vision continued. This was the longest vision I had ever had. The longer it went on, the more her true nature was revealing itself to me. I felt her deep shame over taking vows she knew she had no plans of keeping. The little Catholic girl inside of her had guilt over lying to God. In the dark corner of her mind sat her worst action. She had committed the ineffable act of lying to her Creator. This was her worst action, but it sure as hell wouldn't be mine. Being a gold digger was not a reason to throw her on her knees forever. Her true predatorial character finally revealed itself. She transformed in my vision. She is a most beautiful black widow, only instead of a red triangle, hers was pink. The symbols for the periodic table swirled around us in her pink hue. This woman is highly skilled in chemistry. She is no dumb blonde. She uses her sexuality to hunt, hence the pink hue, and her brain to kill. This will be my theory for now. I will need to meet at least 2 more like her before I will actually give this a name. Realizing that I must have been in this vision for several minutes, I began to panic. What was happening in the world while I was enjoying my cotton candy? I felt a soft paw scratch on my calf from hope, and I managed to snap myself out of it. When I opened my eyes, I realized I was having sex. I was having stranger sex with a woman as a man in a dressing room on Madison Avenue. This would be my first adult sexual experience. The moment I joined the party, it was over. Just my luck. I wonder if I'll ever get to have sex that I get to consent to. The mere concept felt foreign to me. The doctor had made it feel possible, but never as me. Never in my real skin could I imagine such a scenario. For the 3 seconds or so that I was present for, I think men have a better time than women do. Though I couldn't say this for sure, I just couldn't imagine anything feeling better than that had. I pulled away from her, and the overwhelming smell of cotton candy was replaced by the dirty sock smell of her rotten soul. The experience I had just had made me want to let her live, even for just a little while longer. I wanted more cotton candy. According to her vision, she is a slow killer. She marries and then kills. I have caught her between kills. Maybe I can play with my prey just a little bit. Would it be so wrong? I wish I could ask Arioch. Maybe I could get her so involved that she might focus on me and leave the old perverts alone for a while. I could think of it as research. I put my pants back on and looked into the full-length mirror in front of me. I had six-pack abs and a firm, plump ass. The muscles in my arms stretched the linen of the black button-up shirt I had on. I looked like a slightly older Henry Cavill. I was hot, no doubt about it. "That was amazing," she whispered into my ear. "What's your name?" "Henry," I answered. "Can I see you again, Henry?" "Definitely, my lady." Now, I cannot explain to you what it feels like to be an attractive man desired by a beautiful woman, but I wanted more. I wanted more of her essence, her taste. I wondered what the boss will think of this. In my experience, he is either black or white. He'll either scare the shit out of me, give me money, or make a huge mess. When I get money is when I know I've done something right. It's the only positive feedback I get. This would be new territory for me. I took out my predator phone and asked her name. "Oh, it's Candace, but my friends call me Candy." This was a lie. I intuitively know when I am lied to. I knew she was lying about her name, just like I knew she would give me her real phone number. "Really? Your name is Candy?" I got up close to her mouth. "You're delicious, Candy." I kissed her, and she began touching me again. "I think it's very ironic that you say your name is Candy," I whispered into her ear. "Why's that?" she asked. "As I was kissing you, I noticed. You taste and smell like cotton candy. Because we have something in common, we connect on a level you're not aware of yet. We both know that's not your real name, but I will love calling you by it." Her brow furrowed. She started to say something, and I stopped her. "Leave it. You are perfect to me just as you are. I will call you. Thank you for your help." I took her number and never gave her mine. I always like to stay in control. I bought the $2,000 dress and popped into the men's room as quickly as I could to get a video of Henry. Not only did I get a video of him, but I got a video of me changing out of him. I got to watch myself morph back into me. Even my clothing changed. I walked out of the men's room and smacked right into Candy. She looked at me, and her brow furrowed again in confusion. "Where did you get that dog?" She was upset and began yelling for security while looking past me at the men's room. Security ran at me from everywhere and ascended upon me in hope. "What's the problem here?" the security guard asked. "She came out of the bathroom with my friend's dog. She must have done something to him." "Is this your dog?" the security guard asked me. "Of course she's my dog," I answered. "Can we see some ID, please?" "Well, just go in there and make sure he's okay, please." Candy was frantic. One of the security people went into the bathroom and came out quickly. "There is no one in there, ma'am." "I saw him go in there." "Well, please go see for yourself." He motioned for her to go in, and she ran into the bathroom behind me. I pulled my regular cell phone out and showed the security dude the picture of me and Hope on the cover. He rolled his eyes at me and sighed. Candy came out of the bathroom with a perplexed look on her face. "What's your dog's name? Check the ID collar," Candy demanded. "Her name is Hope," I said to a rent-a-cop as he checked her collar. That's his dog! You have to do something! I was enjoying watching Candy try to protect her prey. I think you're confused, ma'am. The ID on the dog matches her license, the security officer said to her after looking at my driver's license. I walked away gracefully as they tried to calm down my hysterical cotton candy. I noticed her bottom lip beginning to quiver. Rationally, she still thought she was in control, but the primal part of her was beginning to sense the danger she was in. She will ignore this. One thing a narcissist will never do is admit to themselves or anyone else that they might not be in control. I stopped and bought a ridiculously expensive pair of black high heels to go with my little black dress. It had been a day. I felt drained. I wanted to go home, smoke a bowl, order something from Bring It and tip the crap out of them. That's my favorite little food delivery service. It's owned by a small family. I wanted to tell Travis about my day, call Kai and Nanny, take a hot bath, and get into bed with Hope. As soon as we got to the apartment complex, I took Hope off leash. She stays right with me. I had a lot to carry up. We got into the elevator, and when the doors opened, she started to growl. I could smell sulfur. There was a glowing jar in front of my door. Hope continued to creep up to the jar slowly. She would sniff it and back away quickly. Arioch rarely does this. This must be something important. I could feel the heat radiating off the jar. I unlocked my door and sat everything down before grabbing oven mitts to pick it up. I save all the jars he gives me. They glow until I pick them up. The heat, now that was a new thing. Each time I experience heat from anything that has to do with Arioch, new symbols appear on my hands. This would be the 6th communication jar I have received. I've studied them for hours and can't figure out what makes them glow. I picked it up and the light began to fade. It was completely gone by the time I got into the kitchen, and it was cool enough to handle. I opened it, and inside was a torn piece of paper with his signature runny ink. At the bottom of the jar was a silver key. I picked up the key and looked it over. There was nothing special about the key. Looked like your typical house key. I put it into my pocket. The paper had an address on it. Below the address was the Enochian symbol for now. A P.S. was below that, and it said, "Take the jar." Fuck! I was so looking forward to a nice, quiet evening. "Duty calls, my angel. How about another bye-bye?" I said to an already sleeping Hope who sprang into action at the very sound of her favorite words. I put her coat on and called another Uber. It was in the same area that I had met my dog thief. The Uber took us to a convenience store. There were several boys standing around in the parking lot. I recognized one of them immediately. We got out of the car, and they looked at me in shock.
"You motherfucker! Get him!"
yelled the man whose lap I had sat on during my vision, the dog thief's brother. I couldn't see my face, but my hands were that of a young man. They rushed me, and Hope took on all of them. They backed away, and I held onto her leash.
"You fucking kill my brother? And then you have the nerve to show up here in his hood?"
He took out a gun and pointed it at Hope. I gasped, and he fired the weapon. It barely missed her. She jumped backwards towards me. "You just fucked with the wrong dog, motherfucker," I said under my breath. He fired again and again. He missed.
What the fuck?
He now had tears in his eyes from the adrenaline flowing through him. He pointed a gun directly at my head.
After I kill you, I'm gonna take my brother's big fucking gun and kill every motherfucker in your house.
The other young men were getting nervous and looking around. 2 shots fired would get attention. Arioch killed his brother, and he thinks my skin did it.
Walk this way,
he ordered while leading me into an alley behind the store. There was one rather dim street light behind it, and the full moon sat in the sky. It was cold, and I could see my breath. With each inhale, the smell of urine filled my nose. It smelled like every homeless person in New York had pissed on piles of trash. The brother asked one of the other guys for their gun. He pointed the weapon directly at me again. He was a leash-length distance from me. Hope was furious. She pulled as hard as she could. I know I should have panicked, but I didn't. I didn't even feel fear. The gun misfired. He tried again and again, but neither of the 2 would fire. I looked up to see crows flying overhead. They began lighting all around us silently. It was a huge murder of crows. That's what a collection of crows is called. They call it a murder because the crows will collect in trees silently for a specific amount of time when one of their own has died. After a few minutes, they all fly away in the same time in the same direction in silence. Hence, a collection of crows is called a murder. I looked at the man in front of me, and he watched as I began to change back into myself. I could feel hair growing out of my head, a very odd yet pleasurable sensation. I finally spoke to him. I gave you a chance, and you let me down. I should have killed you last night with your piece of shit brother. I had hope for you, but now I see that was naive of me. You got a taste of grief, and you've become just like him. I will seal your soul in a jar and protect my world from you. His bottom lip began to quiver. It was beginning to sink in.
What the fuck? Fucking bruja?
I'm going to tell you what I told your brother before I left him to bleed in an alley. I am your rapture. I am your judge and your jury. I control your executioner. And fucker, you fucked with the wrong dog tonight. I pulled Arioch's jar out of my pocket. I could feel the jar beginning to light up. The warmth of it soaked through my glove. I let each one of them watch as I looked them in the eyes and then blew into the jar. The last one was the brother. I looked at him and spit into the glass. I sealed the top and sat it down in front of me. Each one of them looked at me and then at each other. Slowly it began to grow brighter and brighter. I could taste them now. They had an odd flavor. It reminded me of sangria, like a sweet wine mixed with fresh fruit. It was lovely. I could feel their rage, a feeling that was quickly turning to fear. The whole alley was filled with that dirty sock smell. I can smell your disgusting souls, I said to them, but you taste lovely to me. I wasn't close enough to touch any of them, so I could not see a color, but their flavors continued to flood my mouth. I felt the warmth of my own drool sliding down my chin. In the deafening quiet of a midnight alley, the sound of heavy boots pounding onto asphalt echoed in the darkness. I stood motionless. I watched as all the hairs on my arms stood up. Now I began to feel fear, deep, dark, primal fear. The world around us began to slow down. I could see the ends of my hair blowing in slow motion. I looked at the murder and saw each pair of black eyes staring down at us.
What the fuck is that essay?
One of the men asked. I forget how big Arioch is. He was roughly 3 times larger in the shoulders than the men standing around me, and he looked to be pushing 7 feet tall. I forget the feeling you have when he's near. Hope was oddly quiet. She always growled and went crazy at the mere smell of him. Now here he was walking towards us, and she is completely stoic. I, on the other hand, felt like my heart might beat out of my chest. I instinctively lowered my head and kneeled as he approached. I have no idea why I do this. It just happens. Because of my hat, I couldn't see anything but feet. I heard another gunshot. Arioch continued his walk to the jar as if the shot had never happened. I could see the heat coming off the glowing glass in the cold. I saw Arioch's boots right in front of me, and I saw him pick up the jar. He stood in front of me. I looked up hesitantly to find him looking down at me with the jar in his hand. I stood up slowly while watching carefully for a reaction from Arioch. He waited until I was standing all the way up and looked him directly in the eyes before he unscrewed the jar. His once blue eyes were red, and yet still just as piercing. The iris of his eyes was swirling. They looked like 2 bubbly puddles of blood with black circles in the middle, the same shade of red I had seen in my dog thief. Arioch lifted the red glowing jar to his face and slowly unscrewed it. None of the others ran. When he is close like this, you feel frozen. Arioch was now maybe 3 feet from us as he lifted the jar to his nose and inhaled deeply. Hope sat directly in front of me and looked straight ahead. She was so still I could barely see her breathing. The men that stood motionless began to bend their knees. They kneeled to him with their heads down, and then, in a very unnatural sort of way, they raised all their faces to the sky at the same time. The sound of liquid trickling came from the direction of the kneeling men. The trickling was loud in the silent abyss we were all held captive in. The kneeling men were urinating in fear. Arioch slowly removed one glove. He snapped his fingers one time, while not taking his eyes off of me. Arioch smiled a Cheshire grin and walked on down the alley. His teeth were white, and he seemed very pleased. I had never seen Arioch smile. It was a surreal moment for me. It was unimaginable until just now. The men were all sniveling. Snot dripped off their noses and shined in the moonlight. I heard a very loud and long howl off in the distance. A familiar sound. I had heard it the night I took the walk off the stairs that led to nowhere. I had heard it in my nightmares ever since. The murder of crows began to follow behind Arioch. Hope looked up at me and bolted so fast she knocked me off my feet. She ran back to me and then continued her pulling. Hope never pulls me, and she wasn't only pulling, she was now attempting to drag me. I made the quick decision that I should trust her on this one and began running with her. Just before we ran out of the alley, I turned and I saw a group of huge, dog-like creatures devouring the kneeling men. Their fur was jet black, their teeth so huge they protruded from their mouths. Their eyes were the color of melting gold rimmed by red. The eyes glowed. It was a flurry of snapping jaws. Their snaps so fast you almost couldn't see them. I heard loud, crunching noises as they bit through their skulls like butter. As I backed away, all I could see now was the dancing of their glowing eyes in the darkness. We got around the corner and I fumbled for my phone to get an Uber to get us the fuck out of there. I was still shaking and my bottom lip still quivered. A car pulled up within minutes and we were on our way home. We were going the opposite way of lots and lots of police cars. It was now almost midnight. I wanted to go to bed. Hope had used every ounce of her energy she had to keep us safe. She went to sleep in my lap the moment I sat down in the car. I looked at my phone and had tons of missed calls and texts from Benoit. Fuck! I had forgotten she was supposed to be at my place 2 hours ago. I called her quickly, and she answered on the first ring. Tracy! I'm here. I'm alive. I'm so sorry. I'll tell you all about it when I get there. I was so worried about you. I know. I'm sorry. I'll be there in 20. When we got home, I took off the jacket and the hat before going up to meet with Benoit. There was so much I wanted to tell her but couldn't. When you have secrets like I do, it's almost better to not have friends. Kai and Nanny are the only ones that know everything. Benoit works for the FBI. How could I possibly tell her? Benoit sat Indian style in front of my apartment door, eating the cheese the delivery service had left. Hope's butt had begun her wiggle. She licked Benoit's face feverishly. Okay, Hope, Benoit said while trying to stand. I missed you too. I've really missed your mama. How are you, sweet girl? She reached in for a hug and squeezed me. I'm happy you're here. That's how I am. I've had a ridiculous day. Come on in and relax. I fished around for my keys and opened the door. Felt amazing to be home. I changed out of my hunting clothes and put on some pajamas. By the time I was done, Benoit had done the same. She was sitting on my couch drinking a glass of wine. I grabbed a glass of my own and joined her. Well, you look great, girlie. Look at that hair. Now you have to tell me, what are you doing here in New York? I'm curious as to how you are affording all of this. There's so much I can't tell you. For God's sake, girl, why? Well, I'm not going to tell you that you wouldn't believe me, because I know if there's anyone who might believe me other than Nanny and Kai, it would be you, but... Okay, well, let me help you. Benoit got up and took out her badge so I could see it. I'm going to put this into my bag in the other room. No more FBI stuff. I will keep my conversations with you off the record. Just two girls talking. I watched as she walked the badge into the other room. How could I even begin to tell her about anything? She came back, plopped down on the couch next to me, and looked at me intently. I sighed and smiled, but I didn't speak. I wish you felt as if you could trust me, Tracy. After everything we've been through together, you have to know you can trust me. I do trust you, but I also know that you take your job very seriously, and you should, and... Fine. Well, Just take a look at this guy for me and tell me if you get any of your feelings." She showed me several pictures of crowds standing around crime scenes. In the background of each of them stood a tall man with a face mask, dark glasses, and a ball cap. I looked at him intently, but I got nothing. "I have to touch him," I said to her. I don't think I can help you with only a photo. I would need to be able to at least stand near him or something. This guy's a rapist?" "Well, this here's a serial rapist, and he's really sick. He stalks women that live alone. He keeps them for a few days in their apartments. One of his victims has died now, so he's a murderer also. He rapes them repeatedly in every way you can imagine. He goes to great lengths to make sure to cover their eyes. He uses massive amounts of duct tape. He puts dirty underwear from his other victims into their mouths, and then he duct tapes their mouths shut. He'll use an entire roll along with ropes to bind them. He makes sure the duct tape covers their ears as much as possible. Then he hog ties them and leaves. One woman died alone in her apartment because no one reported her missing. We're calling him the cowboy because of the way he ties his victims. He must have some knowledge of rodeo roping or something. He tortures his victims. He will strangle them here and there to watch them die, and then he brings them back. We know his violence is escalating. It won't be long before the serial rapist is a serial killer. I know this is him, Tracy. They brought me in late for this one. I think the cowboy reminds them of the Arioch case somehow. Speaking of Arioch, have you seen any more of him?" Before I had a chance to answer her, my hunting phone went off. The theme from Psycho made Benoit chuckle a little bit. She mouthed the words, "Who is that?" as I answered. It was Ernie. I walked into the kitchen to get a little privacy. "Hello?" "Well, hey there, it's Ernie. Can you talk, or are you busy spying?" "Spying?" I asked. "Well, you said you couldn't talk about your job or confirm or deny, so I just figured you have to be a spy." "I'm not a spy," I answered back. "But if I were a spy, I might have to kill you now." "Well, I'm okay with that, as long as we can have dinner first. Then you can kill me. After a dinner with you, I can die a happy man." "Yes," I answered. "We can have dinner, and then I'll decide if I should kill you or not. Text me the address and time." I turned around and looked at Benoit. Her mouth was wide open, and all the color had left her face. I looked around to see what was upsetting her, and got a glimpse of myself in the windows. Pretty Tracy was back. I guess a conversation can morph me too. I hung up the phone and morphed back while Benoit watched. "What in the hell just happened? I've never seen anything like that in my life. When did this start? What the actual fuck, Tracy?" "Well, so much for secrets. All right. I suppose I'll have to tell you everything. Frankly, I'm relieved." Benoit and I sat up most of the night talking. Well, I guess I should say I talked and she listened. I even told her about Candy and the boys in the alley. "You can be a man? What is the sex like?" Maybe it was just complete exhaustion, but I started laughing. You know how you get when you're so tired that you laugh and cry at the same time? Benoit laughed right along with me. Why is this so funny?" She finally managed to get the question through her laughter out. After everything I've told you, that's your question? Oh, yes! It's the biggest question a girl has, and one we never get to answer. Well, of what I was present for, it was amazing. I want to see Henry, Benoit responded. Can you call Candy? It's 4 a.m, Benoit. Just block your number. I got up all excited and called Candy. She answered on the first ring and didn't sound sleepy at all. I didn't say anything. Henry? I heard her soft voice call to me. Henry, if that's you, I've been so worried. I felt such a connection with you. Please just let me know if you're okay. I hung up on her the second I changed, and before I could put the phone back on the charger, I was back to me. Oh my God, Benoit exclaimed. I can't believe this. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I know you think I'm this by-the-book person, but, honey, this is amazing. This is way beyond anything the Justice Department works with. This is an amazing thing that has happened to you. Remember, down deep, I'm still the little girl born in Louisiana with all the gree-gree. You mentioned playing with your prey. Are you going to see Candy again? I have to. I mean, yeah, I had sex with her, but the bottom line is that she kills for money. If I don't deal with her, how many more victims will there be? She is young. I've made that mistake before, and it has cost people their lives. I figure Candy's a slow killer, so I should be able to maybe have some fun with her before, well, you know. Well, you could give her to me, Benoit answered. A life in prison is worse than death for most. Well, let me see where it goes. I'll let you know. More importantly, I could help you, and I'd love to. I mean, I'm a human lie detector, Benoit. I can tell you what sort of criminal they are just by touching them. And you have no idea where the money is coming from. Absolutely none. Well, I could bring you in as an expert here and there. After what we went through in Gatlinburg, everyone knows your name. Many know what happened down there. And though they either find ways to settle it in their minds with logic or they choose faith. I know a few that started going to church after the bird tornado. One guy quit and left the country. It changes everything when you experience what we did. I suppose that's true. God knows it changed everything for me. Let me ask you, Tracy, what do you do with all the cash? I spend it. I give a lot away. Landlord here takes cash, no problem. And after all this, you still find Arioch terrifying, don't you? Fuck yes. When he does something to you when he's close, it's primal. It happens to everyone, including me. I absolutely know that he would kill me if I stopped doing his bidding. He's a dangerous motherfucker and, well, Benoit, I owe him. You owe him for what? When I was in his world, I saw Travis there. He was in so much pain. Even if he deserved it, to allow my baby brother to suffer for all eternity was something I just couldn't fathom. Nanny told me there'd be no negotiations. I rolled the dice and asked Arioch to let him go. After I went through what seemed like levels of Arioch's hell, I found myself sitting where Travis had been. He was gone. I don't know what that means. I don't know where he went or if he's in a better place or... Fuck! I started to cry. All I know is that I asked Arioch for something, and he did it. Now I owe him, and I think I'm going to owe him forever. Benoit looked at me with warm, loving eyes. Can I see your hands? I put out my palms for Benoit to look at. She ran her fingers across my fingertips and studied the Enochian symbols on them. They feel like calluses to me, I said to her. Does it hurt when it happens? Stings like a burn. Goes away after an hour or so. It seems to me, Tracy, as if you are changing. Is he changing you? I don't know. I think he is changing me. What else could be? I don't know, love. Whatever it is, I want to be a part of it. No more secrets. You can trust me. When I put my badge in the other room and said that all of this would be off the record, I meant that. What do you suppose that key is for? I have no idea. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I took it out and looked at the text message. It's from Kai. She wants to know why I haven't called her yet to tell her about my day. I began my text back and read it aloud as I typed so Benoit could hear it. Benoit is here, and pretty Tracy showed up, so I told her everything. Kai says, good, I like her. Kai likes you. Well, I like her too. I'm glad you've had someone to talk through all of this. How's Nanny and all her little blackbirds? They're fine. Thanks to Dugast. They're doing really well. Better than they were when we first met 'em, that's for sure. If we could find this dude at a crime scene, Nanny could follow him home. She can tell us where he lives and everything. Well, that's great, except for one problem. That means there'll have to be another victim. Just the thought of that makes me feel sick to my stomach. He's probably stalking her right now. A news article came up on my phone about a wild animal or animals that authorities believe must have escaped from a private collection somewhere. Apparently, all the zoo's animals had been accounted for. They believed it might be hyenas or some sort of wolf pack. There were even speculation that it might have been a tiger or tigers. Animal control was out in droves trying to hunt down whatever had killed 5 young men in a back alley in Harlem. I showed the article to Benoit. Holy fuck, Tracy. This was a trade. I gave Arioch 6 predators, and that saved the lives of roughly a dozen innocent toddlers and their parents. Their souls were rotten. I can smell a soul that has gone bad. I can taste the rage and the fear. They have this actual flavor that I can now taste myself. I tried to give the brother a chance. At our first meeting, he was an obvious 4th monkey. He would have rather his brother not be violent. The feeling I got from him the night I took out his brother was that of someone trying desperately to control the rage in the other. The grief he felt when his brother died turned his soul into that of a predator. He would have killed everyone in that little yellow house with the white picket fence. I'm beginning to understand the colors, though slowly. I use the scientific rule of 3. 3 experiences with the same colors and I'll give it a name. Candy had a pink hue with silver accents. She tasted like cotton candy to me, so that's the name I will give that pink hue in the future, if I meet more like her. Now, sounds very scientific. There is something you might be able to help me with. Anything. I need to find out more about Arioch. I want to understand him. He gave Nanny abilities, and he gave me even more than he gave her. I continue to get new ones, but hers, they've stayed the same for decades. Sometimes I feel like I'm turning into him, but I have no idea what he is.
Well, my research team really worked on that while the Man in the Hat murders were going on. There isn't a ton about him, other than what we already learned. We're gonna need to find someone with extensive knowledge about demons. Maybe a college professor. Let me do some digging. Well, I have an idea. What if we prepare the apartment for a conversation with Arioch? We could put plastic all over everything and then butcher paper over that. You can ask anything you want. I think we should just Dexter the shit out of this place.
I liked her idea. My mind swirled with ideas for questions. Questions like, why me? Or, am I transforming into something like you? All important questions. Benoit told me she would go and purchase everything that we would need to prepare my apartment for Arioch's answers. She was going to go do this while I got some sleep. Made me wonder if Benoit ever sleeps. I smoked a blunt and drifted off with hope. Benoit also wanted to go with me on my date. She said she would watch from afar. Occasionally, the sound of plastic being taped to the walls woke me, but it was instantly replaced with the fact that there was another human in the apartment. I still hated being alone. That was the one thing that never changed for me, and knowing she was there gave me peace. She came into my room and woke me at 5:30. "Shouldn't you be getting ready, baby?" she asked. Oh, God, ready for what? I was so out of it. I had no idea what time it was or what day even.
Well, ready for your big date with either the handsome doctor or the murdering psychopath.
Or he might be both. I don't need to get ready. That's all done for me.
Well, then why did you buy the dress?
I thought about that for a moment, and she was right. Why did I buy the dress? You're right. I have no idea. This is all new to me. My clothing always changes. You know what? This dress will look fantastic on you. I got up quickly and grabbed the $2,000 dress from my closet and handed it to Benoit. Oh, Tracy, this is beautiful. I watched her face as she gently caressed the soft fabric.
This is too much. I can't accept this.
Well, if you're planning on going with me tonight, you need a pretty dress. I doubt you packed anything sexy in that overnight bag, and besides, it's your size.
And how do you know it's my size?
Just try it on. I sat on the bed and waited for her to come out of the bathroom. When she came out, it took my breath away. She was stunning, naturally. I hope you know how lucky you are to have been born in that beautiful skin. It's quite a gift, you know, I said to Benoit.
Oh, says the girl with all the gifts. There are people out there that would kill for the gifts you have. Speaking of gifts, after I got back from buying all this shit, there was a satchel on the kitchen table. Has a shit ton of money in it.
I walked into the kitchen and got a look at Benoit's version of a Dexter kill room. Even the ceiling had plastic on it. I looked inside the familiar-looking satchel. All hundreds as usual, and by the weight of it, about $15,000 to $20,000. That's what those 5 lives were worth. I threw the bag into my closet and went back to Benoit. Holy shit, you did a great job. Look at this place.
Well, we still have to do your room. I really wanted you to get some sleep. It won't take long. I'm gonna go get ready for tonight. I, unlike you, don't have anyone to help me with that.
Well, thank you for everything. Thank you for helping me. And thank you for being you.
Well, you are most welcome.
Just for the hell of it, I put on my pajamas, robe, and slippers just to see what would happen. I didn't brush my hair or my teeth. Benoit came out looking like a runway model. Her thick, curly hair flowed around her face and sat on her shoulders. The slit up the side showed her athletic thighs. Benoit had legs for days, as my grandmother would have said.